Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be learning about function. I'm so excited about us getting to this stage of learning about function because we're already proceeding further in JavaScript. So a function is a reusable block of code designed to perform a specific task. So, and a good example of a function is this. I commented this out. This is a good example of a function. And what does this function does? The function just greets. Function declaration is almost the same thing with a variable. Remember when we are declaring a variable, we'll use the let or the const keyword like this. Let, then we give it a name. We give it a name of maybe username, and we assign it a value of something, maybe p. We can just give it a value of this as the name. So in function, we use almost similar naming method, but in function, there's a keyword in function. You must include the word function. So JavaScript will know that, oh, you are defining or you want to create a function, right? And we provide the function with a name. For example, we can just provide it with a name of add, and it's like this how we declare it. And some function can take argument or parameter or input, and they will always a value return a value, right? For example, there is a maybe this one takes two inputs, a and b, for example, a and b, and it returns the addition of a and b, a plus b. Why is this thing called a function? Because it's a reusable bit of code. For example, how can I call this function? I want to comment. Okay, there's no need. Okay, how can I call this function? So when we call function, calling function is a way of us using the function. For example, I can provide a value, right? I can provide 10 comma 4. So it's going to add this thing for me. So let me see. Let me let console.log it. Console.log. Okay, and run the code. We've run it, and it's not loading because there is an error somewhere. So let me comment this thing out back. Good. So I want to clear my terminal and run it again. You can see 14, right? 14. So again, I can provide another value. Let me copy this out again. Copy this out, paste it. I can give it a different value of 13, and this one I may give it 44 or 64, and it will calculate it for me. You can see how it was. So a function is a reusable block of code that perform a specific task. So the task that this is doing is to add, right? And we have different type of functions. This is an example of a type of function. Let me comment this out. I've commented this out. So we have different type of functions. We have the function declaration, which was the first one I made mention of. So a function declaration is a function defined with the function keyword and a name. The function keyword and a name. What's the function keyword? This is the function keyword and the name. The name can be we can give it a name of, for multiplication or division we can, or if we want to, like division, we can put division, right? Division, we can give it a name of division. And remember, this is a function keyword and a name. And division now, we can definitely, we are dividing two values, right? So we can call this one, we can give it any name, right? So we can call it num1 comma num2. So this signifies that there are two arguments that is going to collect, or two input or parameter, and it's going to return what? Return the division of num1 divided by num num2. So how do we now call it out? The same way we did for the first example, we can do it the same way. We'll call it with, the name is called division, right? Division. Then we'll put the bracket since it's a function. Then we provide the parameter. For example, I can provide 100, then the second value should be 25. And how will I prove, how do where do we want to display? Do we want to display it as an alert, or do we want to display it as a message? So should we display it as an alert? Let's display it as an alert so that it will pop up, making use of the of what we did in some videos ago, and press it. Good. So the division is equals to 4, right? You can see it is equals to 4. 4 was displayed here. So that is it about the function declaration. So this is a normal way of creating a function. So apart from that, we also have other way of creating functions, right? The second type we'll be talking about is the function expression. So function expression has to do with storing a function inside a variable. Storing a function inside a variable. They are still the same thing, but it's another way of you creating a function. So how do we remember the way we store our variable? We can either use the let or the const keyword. So for this one, let's use the const. So what name should we call our variable? So we can call it multiplication, right? We can just call it mult, right? We know that mult is going to is the variable name. Now we will write the keyword function, then the bracket, then what is it going to do? So we want this to also collect input, right? Maybe we want it to collect input 1 comma input 2, right? That is what we want. So, and we want it to also return a value. Return num1 times num2, and the result should be what? The result will be where? Good. So now, how do you provide the value for this? Console dot log, then brackets mod, let's give it 10 and 2, right? So we want to console, we want to console dot log it. So we press the enter keyword. So this one was alert, right? So I think we will need to, I don't want the alert keyword to appear again. So I want to comment it out here. So I've commented it out here. So you can see the answer of it here. Let me change the figure again. Let me change it to 100. Then I'll press the enter key. You can see it has been changed to 200. So that's how it is. You can see we are still doing the same thing, but different style of doing it. So the next function that we'll be talking about, which I love very well, and we'll be using it especially in back end, is the arrow function. The arrow function is a shorter way to write function using this keyword using this word. So it's just something like this. You create it, very easy, something like this in practice. So that's how it is in practice. So let's see how, let's write something with arrow function. We can make use of the same example, right? So for the arrow function we can also use the const, right? Const, for example, I don't want to use this word again because it's a const. Let's use subtraction. Let's just say sub, right? Let's just use a sub. We call it sub, then equals to, then assign this, the arrow function, then this, then we return the value of what. So we are taking how many parameter? We are taking two parameter. Let's say n and m, n and m. So return the m divided by m, right? So we've done that. Now let us call the function. How do we call the function? I want to copy here again, copy this one and put it, place it here. So we are calling it. So there's a way you call the function. So you can declare the function anywhere and you can call it anywhere, right? So we are calling it. So we want to call this function. So I'm changing this to sub. Remember, sub has to do with minus. So minus. So let me correct myself here. I went to go and use divide. So I can use minus now. Minus. So what if I give it this value of 200? So this should give us a negative value, right? So I will console.log now. I want to comment this out so that it won't read it at all. So now you can see here negative value has been given to us. Negative value has been given to us. So finally in this video, let's talk about the anonymous function. An anonymous function. So we have other type of function. In my next video we'll be discussing about that, about them. So what is okay, this function, we declare this function. This is a function that does not have a name. Anonymous. When you declare a function that does not have a name. And how do we declare a function that does not have a name? We can declare a function that does not have a name, but how are we going to use them in practice, right? This is the function. For example, this is how it works. Function, for example, we now use maybe console.log and we say hello, hello, right? If I can spell correctly, good, hello. So this is the function for this is the anonymous function, but you cannot just call it like this. Why is it called anonymous function? It does not have a name. There is no name attached, right? So it's a function that, how do we consume it? So the information in anonymous function can be consumed. How? For example, there's an inbuilt JavaScript function, right? Called this is called the set. Okay, yeah, it's over here now. Set time out. So set time out enables us to. It takes two parameters. It takes a function. It can take this anonymous function. So we can just. I want to cut it out. Cut it out and place it here inside. Good. I've placed it inside. And the second argument it takes is the time in milliseconds. This is milliseconds. This is 1000 milliseconds, which is one second. So anonymous for and this set time out enables us to in programming to reduce or to cut the time by which a program it's okay. It's used to just, let's say, to delay execution, right? To delay execution. Supposing you want your code to run and you don't want them to run at the same time. You want there to be like a time difference. So you can use this. Even when you're building your website, you will discover that after some certain time something pop up. So you can use this set timeout to actually set the time at which you want something to be displayed or delayed. All right. So that is it for our luminous function. So how do we call it now? To see this word that we declare, say console.log. So let's all save it inside a variable. You can just decide to save it inside a variable. Const greeting equals to this. So console.log greeting. I want to comment this out. So it's telling me, it's showing us the time at which you see, you can see the delay before this one was printed out. So it's telling the time. I told it to delay a little bit, and that is it. The with about this, we have all the four different functions that I will be explaining in my next video. So thank you for subscribing. Have a great day.